Men can turn into monsters. They can do it when no one is watching. They can do it when the world has left them behind. This is a story about that. It is a story about a ship. The ship was called the Batavia. It sailed in the year 1629. One of the grandest of the Dutch East India Company. It carried hundreds of souls. Soldiers, sailors, passengers, women, children on board. They were sailing toward wealth in the East Indies. Instead, they sailed straight into a nightmare. Their journey did not end in a rich port. It ended on a barren reef under a cruel sun. It was a floating city. It was filled with hope. It was also filled with treasure. Chests of silver coins were hidden in its hold. These coins were meant for trade, but they became a curse. The shine of silver fueled a terrible greed. People from all walks of life traveled aboard. Rich merchants traveled in comfort. Poor soldiers slept in cramped quarters below. These divisions would not matter in the end. The sea would make them all equal. It would strand them on a tiny strip of land. There, they would face a test. It was a test of their humanity. Many would fail. The voyage began with promise. Families waved goodbye from the shore. Storms battered the vessel. Sickness spread through the crowded decks. But the greatest danger was not the ocean. It was inside the hearts of men. A dark plan was forming, a plan of mutiny and murder. The end came suddenly. It was the night of June 4th, 1629. A lookout shouted a warning, but it was too late. The ship struck a hidden reef. The sound was like thunder. Wood splintered and groaned. The great ship was caught. The Batavia tilted at a sharp angle. It was impossible to stand. Some were swept into the churning sea. Francisco Pelsart tried to keep order, but the chaos was too great. They waited for the dawn. When morning came, they saw their prison. They were stuck on the Houtman Abrolhos Islands, small, flat, coral, and sand. There was no soil. There were no trees. There was no fresh water. Getting to the islands was a struggle. Trip after trip in overloaded boats. Many fell into the water and drowned. Around 180 reached one small island, dozens more another. Commander Pelsart made a desperate decision. He would sail for help and return. His name was Jeronimus Cornelisz. He was not a sailor. He was an apothecary, a man of some standing, fallen into disgrace. He believed there was no good or evil. The strong should rule the weak. Even before the wreck, he plotted mutiny to seize ship and treasure. The wreck ruined that plan and gave him a worse one. He spoke to fear. With the commander gone, he saw a power vacuum. He gathered followers, men used to violence. He told them Pelsart would never return. That thirst would kill them. He promised control, the women, the treasure. His plan was simple and cruel. He removed the strongest men, Wiebbe among them, to seek water. Then, he seized food, water, and access to the wreck. He declared himself the leader. He said it was for their survival. It was a lie. The killing started slowly, done in secret. They targeted the sick and the weak first. A boy sent to fetch something never came back. A complaint about rations, a throat cut, a body thrown to the sea. Fear spread like a disease. He bound his men to him with blood. A minister and his family were killed in the dark. A survivor later wrote, "They showed no mercy. The island became a hunting ground. They killed burdens, dissenters, for a coat, for a pair of shoes. Women were forced into sexual slavery. Those who resisted were killed." Lucretia Jans was claimed by Cornelisz. Her suffering and resilience were terrible. They staged trials, sentenced to death, made murder a spectacle. In weeks, about 40 mutineers murdered over 100 people. The cries of the victims were lost in wind and waves. The mutiny was not just about control, it became a frenzy of killing. Cornelisz saw himself as a god. His followers were disciples. They dressed in salvage finery, feasted, while others starved. They severed ties to law and to humanity. The methods were brutal and personal. Swords, knives, clubs. Sometimes they drowned their victims, staged fights for sport, promising life and giving death. Psychological terror matched the violence. Any moment could be the last. Children were not spared. Cornelisz called them useless mouths and ordered their deaths. The records list murdered children by name and age. A chilling document. Imagine a mother holding her child, a father powerless. This was Batavia's graveyard. They kept rules and ranks, justifying slaughter as survival. Cornelisz said, "There is no sin." He made a world for his darkest impulses. Not everyone succumbed. One man stood against it, Wiebbe Hayes, a common soldier, not a leader, just a decent man in an impossible situation, sent away to die seeking water. Cornelisz's great mistake. They found water and wallabies for food. While murder reigned, Hayes built community. Order, sharing, care. Desperate escapees brought news of massacre and tyranny. He had to act, the last line of defense, no swords or guns, so they improvised. They built a crude stone fort, a symbol of defiance. Hayes led by example, steady, not showy, giving hope and duty. Help will come, hold on. A survivor said, he was our father and our captain. In the worst of human behavior, Hayes showed the best. Cornelisz needed Hayes destroyed, and Hayes's water. They crossed on rafts for the first attack. Hayes and his men were ready. They fought with rocks, spears, and clubs, with desperate ferocity. Superior weapons, inferior morale. The attackers broke. Again they came. And again! First repelled, second repelled, third repelled. Under a flag of truce, Cornelisz tried a trap. Hayes saw the deceit, and captured Cornelisz himself. Without their architect, the mutiny unraveled. One last attack. Time running out. Then, a sail on the horizon. Help had finally arrived. The sight ended the fighting. For Hayes, salvation. For the mutineers, judgment. The ship was the Sardom. On board was Commander Pelsert. He expected grateful survivors. Found a war zone. Hayes and his men reached the ship and told everything. Mutiny, massacre, terror. Pelsert secured the islands. Mutineers surrendered. He investigated. Under torture, the killers confessed. He convened a trial on the islands. Jeronimus Cornelisz was found guilty of mutiny and murder. His hands were cut off. Then he was hanged. Others suffered similar fates. The law absolute, even here. Two of the youngest were marooned, the first Europeans to live on the continent. Their fate is unknown. The survivors, Hayes among them, left the islands of death. Hayes was hailed a hero, promoted, courage against depravity. The story of the Batavia shocked the world. The details spread like wildfire. Testimonies were published. How could human beings be capable of such cruelty? It became a cautionary tale of greed, godlessness, and collapse. A dark mirror to the human heart when constraints fall away. Civilization is fragile. Rules and laws can disappear in an instant. In the darkest times, people like Wiebbe Hayes can rise, choosing community and duty. Rediscovered in 1963, cannons, anchors, silver, skeletons, the gallows, Hayes's fort, tangible links to suffering and bravery almost 4 centuries past. In a world without rules, would you be a victim, a killer, or a hero? The line between order and chaos is thin, and it is our shared responsibility to defend it.